Hello and welcome to Kitska Kitchen Lab. My name is Jovan and I will be guiding you through the activities on your workbooks. Today's activity comes directly from your Dairy Digital Workbook, which you should already have access to. Now let's begin by gathering all the tools and ingredients that we'll be using today. So the first one is going to be the most important ingredient, which is going to be your heavy cream or heavy whipping cream. Then you're going to need a container with a tight fitting lid. This is so that when we're mixing around, shaking around your cream, it does not spill everywhere. Then the next thing we're going to be using, it's a liquid measuring cup. Then make sure you have two containers. One of them is going to be used to store your buttermilk, and the other one's for you to store your butter. This is some butter that I actually made just to show you guys. So here we go. And then one of the other two things that we'll be using, if you have one, I would suggest that you guys get a timer, just like this one. This cost me just like 88 cents. It's pretty easily, it's not that expensive. And then lastly, we're going to use a butter knife and of course a piece of bread for us to taste our butter. Next, if you want to follow along, we're going to be using our page 10 and page 11 of our workbook, which looks like this. Then if you kind of take a look at here on page 10 of your workbook, there's a table. So what we're going to be using that table for is we're going to be answering a few questions. We're going to be using our senses to taste everything as we go along. So we're going to start by tasting our cream, then we'll taste our whipping cream, and then our butter and our buttermilk. And I want you guys to tell me if you like it, if you didn't like it, why did you like it, what color was it? Again, use your senses to describe what you're making. So again, just today's objective is going to be for you guys to understand how cream is turned into butter. All right, now that you have all your ingredients, let's begin. We're going to begin by measuring half a cup of cream. Again, we're going to be using our liquid measuring cup, which, as you may know, let me see if I can focus. As you can see here, it's got all the measurements. So what you're going to do, you're going to place your cup on something flat. And then you're going to be pouring your cream. Make sure that you guys ask permission before doing any of this, just to make sure that we're being safe and that you have permission. So again, we're going to begin by measuring out half a cup of cream. We're going to take our little carton of cream or heavy cream, open it up. And again, just because this is a little high of an angle, I'm going to use my hand and grab it. And then I'm going to pour my cream until it reaches the 1/2 of a cup mark, which would be right here. Step number 2, always make sure to close your containers. That way, if you happen to bump into them, they don't spill everywhere. Step 3, we're going to take our jar or whatever container that you have with a tight fitting lid. We're going to pour our cream into your container, just like I'm doing right now, trying to avoid any type of spillage. Then we're going to take our cap and seal it really good, just like that. The next thing is we're going to be using our timers. We're going to keep track of how long it takes for us to get all the different products of cream. So let's think about it. What's going to happen if you start shaking your cream? Well, you might say, we'll get butter. But yes, but before that, what's going to happen? As you may know, cream, especially heavy cream, has at least 30% of butter fat, and sometimes even more. Now, what's going to happen when we stir or keep shaking our jar with our cream? All the globules, meaning all the little particles of fat, are going to start bumping with each other. And it's going to be a moment where they're going to separate. And once they separate, we're going to get our butter and our liquid on the bottom. So again, if you keep shaking your cream, you're going to get butter, which is the fat from your cream, and your liquid. The leftover liquid is called buttermilk. Now, let's also define just a few other things. So, again, if you want to follow along, I am looking at page number 10 on your book. So let's define what whipped cream is, which is going to be one of the first stages for when we start shaking our cream. Whipped cream is cream, just like this one, that has air incorporated in it. That's how it gets all fluffy and nice. And then the next thing I want you guys to, well, not remember, but to know about is the definition of butter. Now, butter is a semi-solid dairy food that is made mostly of fat, 80% of fat. And as I told you guys a little bit back, what's left after you have churned your butter, and churning means that we're going to shake our cream until we get butter. That's what it means. Once we remove the butter from what's left of the milk or the cream, we'll be getting what's called buttermilk. Again, it's just what's left over from your cream, from churning your milk. And we usually use buttermilk to make bread or even pancakes. That is one of the most common things that we use buttermilk for. All right? So now that I talk about all those things already, let's begin the process of making butter. Again, we're going to be needing, again, a sheet of paper for you guys to write down the times or how long it takes to make whipped cream and then butter. And also remember something to write with. If you're using your workbook, you can directly write down the times. Let me see, right somewhere around here, right here. Shaking time, where it says shaking time right here. You're gonna write down how much time it took for you to get that product. So first, let's begin by looking at our cream, right? It's white. And have you guys ever tasted your heavy cream? You can taste your heavy cream, but I honestly, personally, I don't like it that much. So I'm just gonna skip that step. So here we go. We're gonna set our timer. I'm going to be using my watch's timer or stopwatch so that I know how long it takes me to make whipped cream. Because when we shake our little container, we're introducing air to our cream, all right? So I'm gonna count to 3. I'm gonna mute my microphone and I'm gonna start shaking, all right? Ready in 3, 2, 1. And let's begin by shaking our milk or cream. And as you may notice, your cream, it's just gonna slush around. The way you know when you have your whipped cream already done, you're going to stop hearing the slushing around. As you can tell, I don't know if the microphone's gonna pick this up, but mine, it's starting to get a little fluffier. You don't hear as much
slurring as when we started. Yeah, just keep churning, keep shaking your container.
And now, let you know when my whipped cream's done, okay? Here we go.
All right, so I don't know if you can hear this, but my cream is not slushing around, which means I already have the whipped cream made. So what we're gonna do next, we're gonna open up our container and take a look at it. It took me 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Now, I'm gonna open my container. Oh, look at that. If it focus. There you go. My light's really bright, but as you can see, I see my little soft peaks. That means that everything inside of it, it's going to be really light and fluffy, just like this. Again, if you want to take a really good look at it, tell me how it looks, how it smells, which for me, it kind of already smells like butter. And then if you want to, you can taste your whipped cream. And tell me what it tastes like. I want to know your responses when we get to our class next week. All right? So write down how long it took you to make your cream and then reset your timer. And then we're going to keep shaking our container until we get butter. All right, ready? Let's do this in 3, 2, 1, and begin. Basically, what we're doing here, just keep shaking until you start feeling that your cream it's slushing around once again. That means you're on the right track and you're gonna start hearing it too. It might be a little hard at first, but it will get easier. Just keep shaking. All right, so I want you guys to take a look at this. As you may, I don't know if the camera picks it up, but everything it's starting to clump together. And that means that we're beginning to, we're seeing the separation between the fat, the butter fat, and our buttermilk. So just keep shaking and I'll let you know when and how it looks like. All right, let me adjust the lighting really quick. I want you guys to take a look at this. So everything is clumped together. Now, if we keep shaking, you're gonna start hearing slushing around like this. And then you're gonna start noticing that everything's going to separate. So I don't know how well the camera is gonna pick this up. As you can see, I already have my butter separated, which is over here, and the buttermilk on the bottom. And you're gonna hear some slushing. So the next thing we're gonna do, we're going to drain our container. So we're gonna need whatever container you're gonna use for your buttermilk. You're gonna open that up, open your little jar or container, and let me show you what it looks like. As you can see the butter already, and then on the bottom, you see a liquid, which is going to be your buttermilk. I'm just gonna pour that out on one of my bowls or containers, whatever you're using. And there we go. We're gonna keep churning our butter because the less buttermilk it has, the longer it's going to last. And you can just keep shaking it until you get more of that buttermilk. But at this point, we have our finished product already. Let me show you what it looks like. I'm gonna drain the last little bit of my buttermilk. And then I'm gonna close my container. If you want to, you can get a glove so you don't dirty your hands. I'm just gonna do this to show you guys what the finished butter is gonna look like. And what I'm trying to do is just basically take the butter off of my little container. I'm gonna do it just by kind of squeezing the whole thing out. There we go. It's empty. And come on, there you go. That is your finished butter. Now, we're gonna get our second container and we're gonna add our freshly made butter into it, just like that. Let me take my glove off. And then the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna smell and use our senses to describe what the two products look like and taste like. So let's begin first of all by taking a look at our buttermilk. Let's smell it. I want you guys to tell me, how does it smell for you? And then let's see, what color is it? Tell me what color is it. For me, it kind of looks white and it's got little clumps of leftover butter. And then if you feel like it, you can taste it. And the way I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna pour just a little bit on my empty container and I'm gonna taste my buttermilk. There we go, just a little bit. And then let's have a taste. Oh, nice. It's a little, I want you guys to describe what it tastes like for you. For me, it tastes buttery, silky, really smooth, and also a little fattier than regular milk. But that's my take on it. I want to hear you guys' take on what it tastes like. And lastly, and certainly not leastly, our butter. Remember that piece of bread that we needed for at the beginning? So unless you like to taste your butter just straight from the jar or whatever container you have it on, you can just taste a little bit of butter and then tell me, guys, what it tasted like for you. But if you want to, you can also get a little bit of your freshly made butter, get a piece of bread, spread it out, and we're gonna take a bite out of our little bread and butter. And I want to know what it tastes like for you guys. That's really good. Now, the last thing we got are a few questions on your book. Let's go over them a bit and try to answer them as best as we can. So question number 1, again, I'm looking at page 10 on your book, on your workbook. And question number 1 is,
what clumps together to make butter? Remember, I'm going to give you just a second just to think about it. Remember how we talked about how heavy cream has a lot of fat? Now, what's clumping together to make butter is going to be butter fat that is on our cream. Now, let's go over question 2. Let's describe the changes you see as your cream becomes butter and buttermilk. So what is the first change? Remember how we first started? We started with some heavy cream, right? And what did it look like on our container? That's right, it looked kind of like a liquid. It was a liquid, a white liquid. It smelled just like milk. Tasted a little bit like butter. And then once we started churning our cream, what was the next step? What happened to our cream? It became whipped cream. That's right, because we incorporated air to our cream and it made it light and fluffy, just like whipped cream. And then we kept churning our whipped cream. What happened next? What happened to our whipped cream? That's right, it started to separate. It separated into the fat, which is our butter, and it separated into our buttermilk, which is what was left of the churning process. Basically, what the liquid left when we take out our butter fat or our butter. And lastly, the last question is, do cream, whipped cream, butter, and buttermilk all taste the same? Now, I'm not going to answer that question. I want you guys to tell me when we see each other again next week. See how it tasted for you. I just don't want to make any impressions on you. And I want you guys to experience your butter, your dairy products. I want you to tell me what it tastes like for you. Is there a difference in flavor? Is there a difference in texture? All these things. And we'll discuss this more when we go back to our next class. All right. That being said, I really hope that you guys had as much fun as I did making some fresh butter. And as always, bon appetit, and I'll see you in class. Bye.